There's some good medicine there left over.
Like a vegetable.
And then they can bring it to market. In the meantime, they don't have too much in possession. We're talking about bringing this stuff to market. They're going to show up with a couple of pounds.
I like that. I like that question that someone asked me. Like, okay, during these emergency rules, how much am I allowed to bring up to? They're not checking. How much am I like I'm a caregiver bringing my overages? How much am I allowed to drive in the car with? Like, what kind of question is that? Right? Like, okay,
try not to use a top carrier.
Right, I bring my whole load. They're totally empty up there. As opposed to what the safe answer is not more than the cards you're carrying. But I mean, what are these rules? Like, what
Right.
It's just randomness and complete.
Had there been reasonable people involved during the implementation of the Medical Act, they could have looked at stuff like that and looked at it like that. Of course, you can't just be illegal as soon as you just happen to have a good harvest,
But again, I think it's a legislative solution because it would alter the language of the MMA to give them that freedom. I don't think you can do it with just.
Isn't it just an interpretation?
This is this supports the reason why it can't be scheduled, but
I think we have a mystery caller.
Let me just finish my thought.
Mystery
we had
caller.
a client who had gotten licensed temporarily, and their store was broken into. So there was an investigation and an on-site visit. The first one, the state's investigators had never been there before. It got very guarded because we've got the clashing of the two worlds all of a sudden for the first time. And they show up and they walk around, and we ask them, what's the max amount of marijuana you're allowed to keep on site here? And they said, we don't know. Okay, so
I'm pretty sure it's unlimited.
The point of
That's
what
the intention.
Of course. So the question is, how much can someone bring there? How much can someone grow
As
for
much
that?
that will physically fit in their vehicle, I would say.
Well, this is not legal advice, but I'm just saying, when
Take
we
the
are
baby
talking
carrier
about,
out
Jamie,
and
what you're
start
talking
tracing.
about, extending this, these emergency rules create a lenity situation, confusion, uncertainty, possession. It's just all a very. It would be hard to, deem which laws being enforced where. And it's clearly a defendable position, especially in light of the state adopting this as a method by which they're. Yeah, who's a caller? Sorry, it better be someone good because
It is. It's someone good. Hold on a second.
Where's Steve? There's Steve giggling.
I'm sure that it warmed their soul when you said it's someone good and they heard you online. It's nice, Jim.
And I'm sure I'm sure the description is.
It's Alan Peisner.
Yes.
Alan Pizer. We're so happy to have Alan
Jim
Pizer. Let me
Standard
tell you a little
of
bit
good is
about Alan
now
Pizer. Alan
in
Pizer
question.
entertained a group of 80 people last night with comedy, giggles, and historical references backed up by slides. You did a great job. Good job last night, Alan. You're borderline funny.
Thank you.
Way to
Borderline
go,
on
Alan.
funny.
You really brought it home. I heard
My
all
two
about
cents on this caregiver MMFLA discussion that you've been having.
Did anyone ask
it.
Alan?
No one asked you, Alan.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Well, first of all, fuck Bill Schuette. Okay, nobody asked me for that. But is IRS Section 280E is still in effect, and while there's talk in Congress about changing the laws, it's still in effect. And that's like the 88 4-pound gorilla in the room or something like that, that prevents the business from deducting expenses. All other businesses can deduct expenses. And I know there are ways to tinker around it so they can get a percentage at least deducted. But that's the real thing that needs to change so that the businesses can be competitive. And
Right.
that would do a lot to eliminate the black market.
Alan's
or the
trying to
gray
make the
market.
point of the following, that those retail businesses, unlike the processing and grow businesses that have licenses, are subject to double penalties or they can't write off traditional business expenses. Why would this be? If you're asking people that are to participate in a market and report their sales, why would you punish them for this behavior? How can, what is their encouragement to want to participate in a system, be punished by participating, and how can that be competitive with the competition that is not honoring their sales and paying their sales tax and not writing things off? It can't happen. Alan's point is if the goal is to eliminate the gray market or the illegal black market, whatever you want to call it, you got to get rid of 280E. That's the elephant in the room, he said.
There's
What do
a
you say,
section of
Jim?
the IRS code that says that
I would
any-
say you don't necessarily have to.
Oh! We have a showdown. Alan, go.
I mean, I want
Okay,
to.
well,
Somebody's trying to reach out to us by
create
Morse
an
code, it
exception
sounds
for
like.
legal cannabis businesses that they are allowed to deduct their business expenses in a normal way, and maybe write that into 280E as a subsection.
I think that would be lovely. Do you actually think it'll happen? Think that's on Donald Trump's hit list?
I'm going to suggest a caregiver may not be subject to the 280E, but the retailer would.
Yeah.
I'd say that. I'm not. That's not legal advice.
Don't
but
quote him.
To
Don't quote him. on
Ray's
that.
pitching a little woo.
consistent
over there
with the
towards Steve.
Yeah. But
U.S. tax code findings so far. I think
that's
somewhat-
why
although
the
that could change in a heartbeat.
that's why the wholesale price of marijuana has to be driven down so low, and that's what's happened in most of the other states.
Remember, if it is unscheduled,
Huh?
if it's unscheduled, you're not subject to 280E. I'm just saying.
Yeah, if it's unscheduled federally. Yeah. Okay.
Seriously, think about it.
Yeah.
It may be it's the solution to a lot of things.
It is the solution to a lot of things. So you should see how quickly you can get it to the Supreme Court. I'll see you in 5
Wait, I'm
years.
trying to think. Wait,
Huh?
I wonder
All
if
right, Mike.
I wonder what the impact is going to be at the state level for tax. I mean, obviously they can if they're authorized. They're not going to. They don't double. They hit them with a heavy tax, but it's not a penalty associated like 280E. But for federal purposes, it may. It's a good argument. I think.
Speaking of federal,
Do
where's
we have
the federal?
do we have 5 minutes for
There it
a
is.
for an appellate update?
It'd be cool to have an appellate update. It'd be really cool to have Alan give an appellate update and then get to some live music that was promised at some point.
That sounds
Okay. Is that the game
lovely.
plan?
We're not doing the news.
We're not doing
we
the
are
news.
doing the news. Are you ready for the news?
Night.
And so let's do the news. Get the news. And
We're
let's
doing the news right now.
Wait.
Where's his intro?
No, we got.
He didn't bring his intro.
What are we doing? Is it Alan? How? Okay. Is that what we're doing?
Unacceptable.
I don't know.
Alan's got an appellate update.
All right, go.
I thought we were doing the news.
And then Rick's going to do the news.
Oh, okay.
All right. It's time for the appellate update. Bum 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 bum. And this appellate update, of course, is sponsored by Camoran Law. For all your legal needs, call Camoran Law.
How much did Camoran Law pay
Don't
for
interrupt him when he's giving out the number,
Now it's going to
please.
take longer.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I can't find it. It should be around here someplace. 800-65. What is it? 656-3557. I think. Yeah, that's right. 800-656-3557. And also by Grow Green, Michigan. Your greatest place for getting all your hydro needs with the most knowledgeable staff in the country. And their number is 810-299-2900. Okay, our first case tonight is People versus Barrera, B-A-R-R-E-R-A. It was decided January 8th, 2019 by the Court of Appeals. It's an unpublished decision. It's case number 338762. This case deals with the question of, does a passenger in a car that's being stopped for a lawful traffic stop have any duties to talk to the police? Can he just sit there and just ignore the police? The answer is yes. This passenger was in a car that was seen at a known drug house, and on top of that, this particular car had been stopped before by the police, and they'd found drugs in this car. So when they saw this
What
car
kind
at a
of
known drug
drugs?
house, excuse me?
What kind of drugs? Was it
Illegal
marijuana?
I want you to kind
Or
of
was it
flavor the
like
story
crack?
a little bit so I can figure out what.
I don't know that they identified that in the opinion.
They didn't identify the substance?
In any event,
Oh. Huh.
I think it was actually cocaine.
Oh.
There was cocaine involved in this one. There was also some marijuana too.
Oh, there was some weed. in
Okay,
there.
so anyway,
All right.
the police see this car at the known drug house, and of course they know the car, so they keep an eye on it, and when it leaves the house, they follow it for a while and manage to do a traffic stop, allegedly for speeding. And when they stop the car, well, it turns out the driver's going to get arrested. I guess he doesn't have a driver's license. Maybe he's got a warrant. Someone else in the car. So the police start talking to the defendant, who's sitting in the passenger seat, who basically refuses to identify himself. And so they take him back to the jail. And at the jail, they learn he's a parole absconder, and he has a warrant for his arrest. So he's formally arrested, and he's strip searched. But and the trial court denied his motion to suppress the evidence. The Court of Appeals reversed and vacated. The police didn't have any probable cause to arrest this defendant on the scene just because he was in a passenger in a car with a driver who had no license and maybe had a warrant. I mean, he didn't have to talk to them.
Horse with no
And
name.
so they vacated his conviction on this matter. So that's an interesting thing. Like I said, if you're a passenger in a car, you don't have any duty to talk if you don't want to.
Yeah, just shut the
All
fuck
right.
up.
The next case I'm going to go to
Talking
is
embarrassing,
People versus
put that
Anthony,
down.
which is a published decision from January 22nd, 2019, and it's case number 337793. And this is actually a firearms case. The police approach this car. They claim it's blocking traffic. And when they get there, they claim they smell marijuana. But they ultimately
What
searched
kind of
his
car
truck,
was it?
And it was a truck.
Oh, it was a truck. What kind of
And-
truck? Was it like a Silverado?
I
Stretching
don't
this out.
remember. That's too
Unnecessary.
detailed a question for me. I can tell you, look, it was a black truck from the picture I saw. But anyway, so the police find firearms, and he's arrested for felon in possession and CCW and whatnot, after claiming they smelled marijuana. But when you look at the picture, it really doesn't look like his truck was blocking traffic. Nevertheless, the court only heard from one witness on this case, and they dismissed the firearms charges against this. And the Court of Appeals reversed with a 2-1 decision, two of the judges deciding that the smell of marijuana gave these two officers probable cause to investigate further. And, of course, when they investigated further, they found the firearms, even though he was never charged with marijuana and no marijuana was found. And, of course, that smell of marijuana could have been made up.
As good the blocking of
there's
traffic.
traffic.
your case for that Lansing Pulse guy right there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the
Another
dissent
case.
said that they went beyond their role as appellate judges. They can't decide facts; they can only decide law, and criticized them for that. The dissent's very well written, in my opinion, and would support the trial court's dismissal of the evidence. But I brought this case up though because the way two of the three appellate court judges felt that the smell of marijuana is still probable cause to search, and it
That
shouldn't be.
is not true.
Now, this was a case that came down
Totally.
before Proposal 1 was passed.
Right.
So
we don't really know.
that'll make a difference.
It should.
What was the name of that
Yeah.
case, Alan?
Should.
Isn't the Anthony case
This was,
revolving
People
around
versus
whether
Anthony.
there's a seizure? At what point there's a seizure, Alan? Isn't that kind of critical in the analysis?
Yes, this case actually looked at that, and at what point there was a seizure. It's like 28 pages of garbage opinion, in my opinion, reading it. No, it's 24 pages, I'm sorry. But they looked at that at
But
three
it felt
different
like
Wait,
28 pages.
Wait, did the defendant?
How's the
Wait. The defendant
And whether or not
did
he
not
was
have a
seized.
card. Am I right? He just argued that that smell alone because of the act. True or false?
Right,
Okay.
right.
True.
That was not probable cause. It was
And the
not
fact that
probable
there
In
cause.
other words, it doesn't really address, Alan, as what you know and understand to be the dispositive issues in the Aaron Clark case, which is of similar issue, but where we defend the judge who found that smell alone is not enough
Right.
when a patient. Right. This case does not impact that because the specifics of that rested on the presentation of the card or determining whether the person had a card before the search.
But they went on to search and didn't find anything either. Right?
Yeah.
There was no card here. If I'm understanding this
Well,
argument,
in this case, the judge didn't even believe the police officers that they smelled the marijuana. They didn't prosecute the guy for marijuana, and he felt that the whole thing was a pretext. He looked at the pictures and didn't even feel the truck was
they
blocking
reversed it. Right, the
traffic.
Court of Appeals. The Court
So-
of Appeals.
and the Court of
undid
Appeals
it.
reversed those fact-finding decisions of the trial judge, and that was what was so terrible about this decision. And hopefully, it will be appealed to the Supreme Court. Hopefully, the Supreme Court will grant leave to
And
reverse the Court of
and
Appeals.
they rejected the argument that because of the passage of the MMA on its face
On its face.
makes the smell alone with nothing else. Not, like I could have a patient, there could have been a
Not
patient.
probable
I may know a
cause.
patient, I don't have to have a patient, but
It is
clearly
not
the smell
illegal
of it
to
is
smell
not
like
illegal to have the smell
marijuana
around it because
anymore.
I may have brushed up against the patient. I don't have to tell you this, but the smell is not contraband.
Even
because-
Schuyler the Federalist will
Well,
tell you.
So this going to the Supreme
illegal.
Court could give us the ruling of.
I don't know, Alan. Are they going to appeal this? This is published, if I recall.
Yeah, January 22nd. Well, they've got 56 days, so we'll have to see if they
Are you going
file
to
for
count
leave.
down?
What did you think about the dissent here? Who was
Write it on
our
your calendar on the
of
wall.
course.
who was
Fleischer.
the dissenting opinion?
They don't.
Gleischer, Elizabeth Gleischer wrote a
Yeah.
very good